Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Well, I love how this conversation is going in some ways, and I'm despondent in others. Andrea has written in and said, what do you know about studies for pre-K and public schools for kids with autism? I chose to remove my 4-year-old because after a month of pre-K, he became extremely aggressive. I'm now trying to get him into an ABA center since he lost his ABA. ABA school versus public school thoughts. Sarah wrote back in and said, in response to that, she says, Andrea, we lost our ABA also, and we are in a dead zone. So Andrea, I love they're talking to each other. Andrea said, Sarah, our ABA was wonderful. Sadly, she chose to further her career in another field, and now I'm trying to figure out what's best for my child. It's a struggle. We are seeing this across the country, Dr. Granpeesheh. There is a terrible shortage of people working in the field of ABA right now after COVID. And there are many places where there was just burgeoning ABA happening, and now it looks like it's gone. I don't even have words. It's so frustrating for me because when you know that something works and you want to get it for your child and it's not available where you are, it's so frustrating.
It's extremely frustrating. So I guess I'd suggest a few things. One is, and let me go back to Andrea's original question.
Yeah.
So there aren't, actually, it's funny because I just remembered there is a study back in the 80s, but it would be pretty old now and wouldn't, it's hard to study something like the effect of pre-K because in public schools, because the classes are so different, the schools are so different. You might have one good teacher will make everything different, right? Will change the outcome, no matter if it's a public school or whatever it is. It has to do with one good teacher. And unfortunately, I think what happens a lot in schools is that, public and private, by the way, is that there's just so much loaded onto the teachers that even when you start out sometimes with a really good teacher, they become overwhelmed and frustrated and annoyed, and they don't have the energy to do a good job anymore. So there's no real studies to talk about this, but what happens is that if at any point you put your child in an environment and it's very clear to you that they become extremely aggressive, this goes back to kind of what I was always talk about, is that, aggression and all of these challenging behaviors are communication. Your child's trying to talk to you. They're trying to say something. And usually what they're trying to say is, I am frustrated because the situation around me is not fair. That's why I always say, make sure the environment is fair for your child. And it could have become unfair for a million different reasons. There could be a teacher who doesn't spend the time to understand what your child's trying to communicate. There could be other kids who are bullying. There could be material that is too difficult. There could be an environment that is too sensory overwhelming. I mean, there's so many different reasons that a situation could become frustrating for a child, and then their only way of trying to get out of that frustrating situation, because they can't communicate it because it's complicated. So their only way is to become aggressive, right? Leave me alone. I'm totally frustrated and annoyed. So, so let's now put that aside for a moment. And I don't know that, like, it's not a choice between public school and ABA. Those two things should not be put against each other, because even if you're in public school, you should be able to access ABA in school and on top of that, so at home as well, because as Shannon said, ABA is covered by health insurance now. So what we do most of the time and across the states is, obviously, if the child needs an academic environment, if they're able to handle an academic environment, they're in school. We put a shadow in school with the child. It's like a one-to-one aide who helps the child get through their class time. And then we also have ABA after school in the home or at an ABA clinic. So it's almost like ABA is kind of like available at all times, but you go to school and come home, and ABA is still with you during that time. Now, and I don't understand. I mean, I assume the reason that the parents are writing in and saying I lost ABA and it's hard to get it is because of the shortage you mentioned, Shannon. But at the same time, there are a lot of companies that are starting up and providing ABA. One resource, you guys, that you might want to consider that parents usually don't know about is the behavior, the BACB.org. It stands for Behavior Analysis Certification Board, right? BACB.org, I think. And if you go on there and you look up where do I like checking on BCBAs, or where the list of BCBAs that exist in the country, all BCBAs, which stands for Board Certified Behavior Analysts, right? All of them, including myself, are listed on this site. And their contact information is also listed on the site. So there's an email, usually there's a phone number. And the beauty of this site is that, exactly, thank you, Traven, for putting that up. And so it's bacb.com. And if you go on there, you'll see that you can filter by your state, and you can find people who are in your region and reach out to them and say, I have a child of this age and these are his needs, and would you be available to provide supervision? And honestly, that's pretty much what you need, because the hiring, like in the old days, Shannon, before there were so many companies out there, we used to just provide a supervisor, and the supervisor would then help the family with finding or hiring therapists. Right. So the BCBA is the key person that you want to try to find. And then that person could also be working at an agency where they provide technicians, or they can help you get in touch with additional resources like behavior technicians. And also, before I forget, your school also has an obligation to not only fund, but also to provide this service to you. So it doesn't matter, all public schools, they have to be able to give you that resource. So you can start by calling for an IEP and saying, I need behavior analysis resources. And they would have to find and hire a BCBA who will then supervise, guide, communicate with you, and so on. So there are some resources out there. They don't make it very obvious how you can access them, but these are some ways you should try.
And I also want to say, if you live in the United States, all 50 states have mandates that where you should be getting your ABA through your insurance or
That's
through
right.
the local, uh, the state Medicaid program. And what we're seeing with a lot of people is you had an ABA provider through your insurance, and then your therapist, your person quit or whatever. But don't take that on yourself. Call your insurance company. They have a right to give you access to your benefits. And
Yes.
if the people who were delivering your benefits packed up and left, then they have to help you find someone else. And if they don't vendor with that person, if it's out of network and they can't find you somebody in network, they will do a single case agreement with somebody who's out of network. They have a responsibility to do that, and they'll do that until they have somebody in network. So be a squeaky wheel, make those phone calls, get your ABA back. I think for both of you, you're mourning the loss of your ABA. Let's put a little time in that bucket of getting it back. It's hard. I don't want to pretend it's not hard, but I think it'll be worthwhile for you. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.